Hi, my name is Steve Peters, and I'm here tonight to talk about router installation and configuration. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me, why should I even worry about router configuration? I brought my router home from the store, I plugged it in, I even got on my wireless, and everything seemed to work just fine. And while this is true, a lot of people fail to consider security when setting up their router. And I've had people even tell me that they're not concerned about their wireless security because they don't have anything to hide, or they don't have any secrets, or that they're not concerned about their neighbor stealing their internet connection without paying for it. And I think a lot of people just don't consider the possible security risks, especially with identity theft. Now, because identity theft is so prevalent, everybody knows what it is, but a lot of people don't really understand how identities get stolen. And one of the big ways that it happens is through unsecured wireless networks. Because when your wireless network is unsecured, it's not just keeping people from accessing your network, it's also keeping people from intercepting the traffic. Because all the traffic that you send over a wireless network is sent through radio waves. So if someone is sitting outside your house and your wireless network is unsecured, they can eavesdrop on all your transmissions, and many of them are sent in plain text, which means they're easy to read. So tonight we'll just talk real briefly about how to establish your security on your wireless router. So we're going to start with a Cisco E3200. It's a fairly common router. It's similar to a lot of models that are on the market today. And the configuration pages are pretty standard. If they don't look exactly like the other brands, the terminology that's used is very similar. So we'll start here by plugging it in. And you'll see the lights start to come on the back here as it goes through its power on tests. The next thing we're going to plug in is our computer to port 1. Now, a lot of routers don't want you to configure them through wireless initially, so we'll start with a wired connection. And then we'll plug our internet connection from our DSL or cable modem into the port that's marked Internet or WAN, W-A-N, which stands for Wide Area Network. Now, once it's done testing, in your manual you'll find an IP address to open up a configuration page for your router. Your router may have come with a CD-ROM to help you configure it. I like to avoid those because I don't like third-party tools trying to set my security for me. So most routers are set to 192.168.0.1 or .1.1. Mine is set to .2.1 because I've already done a little bit of configuration on it. So then it will prompt you for a username and password, which can also be found in your manual initially. And once you log in, it's going to come to your basic setup page. This is where you'll set up things like how you connect to the internet. So for most people, it's going to be automatic configuration or DHCP. Mine just happens to be static IP because I'm behind another cable modem. So once you get your IP addressing information all set up, and your internet service provider can help you out with that if they need to, but if it's DHCP, there won't be any configuration there to change. And then you're going to set up your IP address on your router. So mine is set to .2.1 because .1.1 was taken by the modem that's behind my router. So I went with .2.1. And for the name, I just went with router. You can really name it anything you want. That's not going to affect your security at all. And then you're going to want to make sure that your DHCP server is enabled unless you're familiar with static IP addressing on your network and you want to manage that yourself. So then we'll hit Save Settings. It'll tell you they've been saved, and you'll go to the next page where we'll start with wireless. Some people like to use the Wi-Fi protected setup. I still like to use the manual setup because, like I said, I don't like third parties involved in my security. So for the network mode, I have two radios on this router. 2.4 gigahertz will be on just about every router you can find nowadays, and you can set it for wireless B, G, wireless N, or a mix of all of them. And then you're going to give it a network name. Don't leave this at the default, whether it's Linksys or Netgear or what have you. Make sure that you choose your own name, because when people try and crack the encryption passwords, the name is part of how the password is calculated. So if it's very common, there's a good chance that that password's already been cracked for your router. So choose a name that's less common. And then you'll save your settings again. It'll tell you to continue, and we'll go over to wireless security. Now, the security mode that you're going to want to choose here is WPA2 Personal or WPA2 Enterprise, or possibly WPA2 WPA Mixed Mode. Now, WPA stands for Wi-Fi Protected Access, and it's just the most common or most current method of securing or encrypting your router. So I'm going to go with WPA2 Personal because I don't have any devices on my network that won't handle WPA2. If you do, maybe some older computers, select the WPA2 WPA Mixed Mode so that they can still operate. And then you're going to want to set a passphrase to secure that router. That's the password that you'll type in when you try to connect to your system. So then the next thing you want to do is check the security tab and make sure that your firewall is enabled. This will deny a lot of outside attacks and things that try to break into your network. It will keep them from being able to do so. The next tab we're going to click on is Administration, and this is where we can change that router password. Because it's usually set to the default, you're going to want to change that because the default passwords are readily available on the internet through a simple Google search, depending on the make and model of your router. So we'll just type in a new password here. Make sure that it's accessible only via HTTPS if you really want to be secure, or HTTP. This is one of those things that's up to you. I'm going to change mine later after we get done with the tutorial here, and then you're going to save your settings. Before we leave this page, there's one other thing I need to mention. A lot of routers have this remote management capability. I like to make sure that's turned off. What that means is that people can't access my router and try to manage it if they can guess the password from outside the network. They have to break into the network first before they can try and manage my router. So it makes it much more difficult to do so. And then finally, over on the status page, on the first page, you'll see the router basic information and the IP addresses that will get you out to the internet. But over here on the local network tab, it'll show you your DHCP server with your starting and ending IP address. And then if you click on DHCP client table, it will show you everyone that's connected to your router. So because I just plugged mine in, I'm obviously the only one connected. But as this list grows, you can kind of keep track of who's connected to your network and how long they've been there, what the physical address of their computer actually is. So you can see if someone's been on your network that's not supposed to be. And I like to keep an eye on this. And that is about all we've got for tonight for basic wireless configuration. Remember to secure your routers and avoid identity theft. And I will see you next time.